Elkmont, Alabama is a very small town with a population of a little over 400. It's on the outskirts of Athens and about 45-minute drive from Huntsville. Being from a small town, I know there's not much to do, especially as a teenager. Options are quite limited, and some accept their small town fate, while others get hyper focused on leaving. Others may turn to the darker side and get involved with drugs and get in trouble. There just aren't many options for small town living. In September of 2019, 14-year-old Mason Sisk had just gotten back from a family vacation with his parents and siblings. They had gone to the beach and had a ton of family fun. Mason and his dad buried his younger siblings in the sand and played in the water, got some sun, and everything seemed perfect. After a few days, when they got home, Mason just wanted to relax, and having a bit of extra energy after their trip, when his family went to bed, he was down in the basement playing video games. Suddenly, he was startled by a pop sound, then another, and another. Being someone who has shot a gun before, he recognized the sound as gunfire. Scared, confused, and not really sure what happened, but fearing the worst, he ran outside just in time to see a car speeding away and dialed 911. When the police arrived, they drew their weapons and searched every room. They found no intruders in any of the rooms, but what they did find was Mason's entire family slaughtered in their beds. Mason's dad, stepmom, and all of Mason's siblings were now dead, and he was completely alone. Mason was taken to the police station and questioned, as he was the only surviving member of the Sisk family. He repeated his story. I was down in the basement playing video games. I heard the shots. I ran outside, saw a car driving away, and dialed 911. They pressed him as to why he didn't go check on his family first. He replied that he just assumed the worst and ran outside. He saw a vehicle pulling away from his house when he got outside and called the police. After some time of investigators pressing Mason, not being fully convinced of his version of events, he finally started to crack. He told them, "Yeah, they argue a lot," meaning his parents, "and I just got fed up with it." Then stated all the kids were going through a lot, meaning his siblings, who were only 6, 4, and 6 months old at the time of their deaths. After this statement, Mason was charged with murdering his family and had additional charges for killing more than 2 people. Any more than 3 murders classifies the perpetrator as a serial killer, and at 14, Mason is one of the youngest serial killers in the United States. But why did he actually do this? There had to be more to it than his parents argued and he killed everyone. Mason was not found to be mentally ill, he was not said to be taking any medication, and no evidence has been found pointing to him having a breakdown. They also didn't find any history of Mason having homicidal thoughts or making threats to his family. No over-the-top behaviors or actions, but due to his clean bill of mental health, they also determined him unable to be rehabilitated and asked that he receive the maximum sentence of life in prison. Due to his age at the time of the crime, he could not be given the death penalty. April 2023, Mason was finally tried and found guilty after a previous mistrial. He was given the sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole due to him not being able to be rehabilitated. At his sentencing, Mason was only 18 years old. The mistrial that occurred back in 2022 was due to evidence being withheld, and the mistrial was granted. The DA stated that the FBI had Mason's parents' phones for the last 3 years and had just gotten into them at the time. He also stated with all possible unlock codes that exist, it can take the FBI up to 26 years to unlock a device. The evidence on these phones was thought by Mason's defense to hold the key to his innocence. What was present on his mother's phone showed a very loving relationship between Mason and Mary, who was his stepmother. While Mason was in jail, he had many conversations through text with Lola, who was his girlfriend at the time of the shootings. She never felt he was guilty and said that Mason had told her before if anything bad happened that his dad's brother did it. In the text messages, Mason had said many things to his girlfriend about the murders, ranging from proud comments like, "I'm good with a gun, I killed my family in less than 4 seconds, all headshots." But his girlfriend stated that she didn't believe he sent these messages, and previously he told her that he did shoot his family, but someone had forced him to. They held a gun to his head while forcing him to shoot his family. One article claims that Mason had found out that his stepmom was not his biological mother and snapped, but this doesn't really make sense because he was 4 when his dad married his stepmom, and he had told his girlfriend previously that his biological mother would lock him in the bathroom and leave him there, and then his dad got remarried. So this theory really holds no weight. Lola and others claimed that he was an amazing, loving brother. He would play dress up and do tea parties with his younger siblings, but was also too scared to hold the new baby because he was so small. Lola still believes he's innocent, but his stepmother's side of the family is heartbroken and made some heart-wrenching statements at Mason's sentencing. Mary's brother Douglas said, "I came home with gifts for everyone, including you. Instead of seeing the happiness on their faces, I had to put those gifts in caskets. My family has suffered so much. We haven't been able to rest for years because of what you did. You were accepted into our family since you were 4. I remember driving you to get video games and basketball practice. You're in our family photos, and that's all we have left to remember them by. A whole family has been lost. I lost my sister. She loved you, and you killed her. Your nanny, she chose you as a grandson. She passed away this past year, and so your one supporter is gone." Mary's sister Katie also spoke, saying, "Our first time meeting baby Colson was in a casket. Mason, your mom tried to leave your dad so many times. He would say you can take the others, but you can't take Mason." This implied that his stepmom would not leave because his dad would not let her take him also, so she stayed in a bad relationship for him. Katie continued, "Nanny never believed that it was you until the evidence was in front of her face." She said, pointedly at Mason, "How could you, her first grandson, murder her family? She had a heart attack and later died from cardiac arrest. I do not know if I'll ever forgive you, but I do grieve the loss of you. The child Mason that I knew died the day that you murdered them." You can definitely understand their heartbreak, but there are those who believe he is innocent still, and his confession was largely due to his age at the time being only 14, as the police did not make sure he had an adult with him during his questioning, and he had no attorney, nor was he read his rights for a lot of the questioning. One family friend called Gator, who was like his dad's brother, said that Mason stayed in his room a lot. He was a nerdy kid growing up. He was starting to grow into himself. Gator said he didn't sense any tension between Mason and his family, but added that there was a bit of tension between John and Mary. He doesn't believe that Mason committed the murders. He says, "I don't believe he did it. I think there's a little more to it somewhere, and we'll never know the truth." He also said, "How can I feel anger when I don't know what happened? I can't say that the man right there killed his family because I don't know that. Everything was fine, so what transpired that night to make this happen? I don't know. I can't satisfy everyone." He continued looking at Mary's family and said, "I can't turn my back on him. Mary wouldn't want me to. I'm sorry." The district attorney spoke after the victim impact statement saying, quote, "He thought about what he did. He was resourceful. This was not something rash that happened in the heat of the moment. This was calculated and planned." Mason's father's side of the family also spoke in court, saying Mason would rock himself as a coping mechanism to self-soothe for a long time. His dad's sister referred to this as a weird thing. His girlfriend's dad also spoke in court on his behalf, saying Mason should not be locked up at all. There's no way they should consider such a young person to be unable to be rehabilitated, as he himself was previously in prison and sees the situation from a much different view. After the shooting initially occurred, Mason's cousin had told a news station that a few months before the shooting, Mason was burning animals alive and broke into his school. But she's also the one who said that he just learned his stepmom was not his biological mother. And according to his girlfriend, he 100% knew his biological mother and remembered her leaving and his dad getting remarried to Mary. So she could have just been saying these things looking for her 5 minutes of fame, and I really don't hold much weight in that. Mason's legal team is filing for an appeal on various grounds, including coerced confessions, not being read his rights, not having an adult present during initial questioning, pertinent evidence being withheld, and other illegal occurrences during questioning that led to Mason's confession. Mason's defense attorney, Michael Sizemore, said the teen would not make a statement at Tuesday's hearing, but during his closing arguments reminded everyone that Mason was only 14 at the time, and the most violence he had ever been said to show was punching a hole in the wall, which he immediately covered up to, quote, not get in trouble. Sizemore also pointed to Mason's feelings the night of the murder, saying Mason had asked on the scene about survivors and responded, thank God, when a deputy said that some of the victims were still breathing. He also added, I think that he has vast potential to be rehabilitated if he's allowed in programs and if he's allowed to complete his education. The opposing side's closing argument stated this was not a case about bad decisions. It's not a case about hopefulness for rehabilitation. It's not some minor infraction. He planned this. He stole the weapon. He waited for them to go to bed and shot and killed everyone. When we go to bed at night and lock our doors and turn our alarms on, he's what we're afraid of. When kids are scared of monsters, he's who they are afraid of. Regardless of many believing Mason is innocent, even with his confession, and those who believe he's undoubtedly guilty, the jury only took 2 hours to deliberate and found Mason Sisk guilty and charged him as an adult with the maximum sentence allowed by law, life without the possibility of parole. The judge presiding the case gave a statement saying the crime was ghastly, disturbing, and draped in unmitigated evil, and therefore warranted the harshest punishment allowed by law. And that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story as much as I enjoyed telling it. If you haven't already and you did enjoy the story, like, love, and make sure to check out the previous stories I have posted. Also, if you enjoyed this story or any others I have, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future installment. Feel free to share with anyone who enjoys less than well-known dark reality stories, and leave a comment or let me know if there are any stories that you would personally like me to research and cover. Have a great weekend.